Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man whose infectious energy and commitment inspired each of us. Truly the embodiment of big ideas and grand vision. The Chairman Emeritus and founder of Up With People, J. Blanton Belk.
Wow. Wow. Look. Thank you. I'm looking for the cast that made all that noise last night under my bed. I couldn't even talk to Betty about 3 in the morning. And I apologize for my voice. Look, I want to be a Dale Penny when I grow up. What a morning we have already lived through. So many memories. I'm very moved. You've given the Belk family a hell of a great 50 years. Thank you. And you're all here this morning. Jenny and Katie, who traveled 85C and 88D, and Betty, who without her, I wouldn't even be standing here, and 2 great son-in-laws, one from India and one from Peru. So we're doing our part in bringing the world together. And 2 terrific grandchildren. Really, 2 boys, 2 girls. But listen, I must pay tribute to Ken and Maris Siegel and Lynn Morris. Look, we sit here and we're tremendously moved by what they put together. But if this had been a television show, in every home in America today, instead of quite childish political talk, really, we're not living in the real world yet in the USA. But if this was a television show in the centers of power in the world, I still have dreams. Goodbye. I sat there tonight, is it night? It feels like night. I thought, let's do some bold things together. Let's book the Hollywood Bowl. Let's book Carnegie Hall in New York City. Let's book that great hotel called the Hilton Hotel on Connecticut Avenue where that first show took place. Let's book them and then we'll find the sponsors. You know, it puts us on the spot. Book it a year from now. Then we have to go to work. And we have to go to work together. How the hell would we make a tremendous success in all those places and speak to the world? I want to go to Washington. I saw our Senator Flake, who's he's a Republican. I like him. I like him a lot. He helped us in Cuba. You know, we had all these dreams. We had an impossible dream in the 60s. The demonstrating youth of the 60s, sometimes violent, We have a crazy thought, a really crazy thought. Let's give them a voice. Let's find out what they want to build. We're not against what they're against, but what do they want to build? You turn the 60s around. What if the government in America had taken that stance for the whole nation? We'd have had a different country. Okay, so we have this crazy dream, and we have these youth come. How do you keep them interested? So I come up with a thought, we'll take you to Russia. Dale gave most of my speech early on. I usually speak before Dale. He got to the mic first. And he is the right man at the right time for this program. So we have this crazy dream. So we say to him, as Dale said, stick with us. We'll take you to Russia. We're going to meet the young people in Russia. We're going to take you to China. We go to China in 78. Betty and I went with him. We land in Peking, Beijing. We land way out on the airport. We have to walk nearly a mile, but tremendous pictures of Mao Zedong, Chou En-lai, and Deng Xiaoping. 3 enormous pictures. I'm asked by Michael Knowles to hold back. So I hold back with Michael Knowles. And Michael Knowles, and up comes, who's the great guy that sings Moonrider? Reed. Who? Reed. That's who I was singing about. So the two of them say to me, Mr. Belk, we really owe you a big apology. We were the people at the back of the cast that always started the laughter when you said we were going to China. And we want to apologize. Here we are in China. Look, there's 2 men here today sitting in the audience. You have a dream. Who makes them reality? There's a man named Hans Magnus here. Betty and I lived in Europe for 2 years, 71 and 72. By the way, I was told by Ken, only 10 minutes. Okay. Christian Walton said to me, that's 12 seconds for each year. So bear with me. Give me a few more 12 seconds. So Dale and I, Hans and I had great years with our wives. Tova's here. And I want Hans to stand there because he's the man that took us to Russia and all those countries. Wherever he is, where is he? Hard work. Ah, there he is. We have a life together. And then, you want to speak, Hans? So then, China. Jose Rios is here with Mary Christina. Jose from Venezuela, who was Hans was president of Up With People in Europe, and Jose was president of Latin America. He was the one that went down to Mexico City, drank over 5 months. They negotiated with the Chinese, People's Republic Chinese in the embassy. He drank tons of black tea. He was better for it. Where are you? Jose, stand up. Jose. He was magnificent all through China. We had a telephone call the end of April 1978, sitting in our office in Tucson, Arizona. The phone rang. It's from the embassy of China in Mexico City said, Mr. Belk, we've listened to your people, and everything they said, we checked out, it was true. I said, boy, I'm glad to hear that. Said, we checked it carefully. You don't belong to the CIA. You're not part of the FBI. And you don't belong to the American government. You are what you say you are. We want you to come to China. The end of April. I said, that's terrific. When would you like us to come? The 1st of May. So we go to see a friend named Jim Boswell. One of his great friends is here this morning, Owen and Susan Roberts. And I went to see Boswell. This could go on quite a while, Betty. We're getting going now. Do you all remember Mr. Boswell? Terrific board member. I went to see him some months before he died out in Palm Springs. We've been close friends. He said, never go to a funeral. I said, oh. So the person you're celebrating ain't there and probably doesn't know you're there, so don't go to any funerals. 6 months later, he dies. He leaves a note in his will. He'd like Belk to speak for 5 minutes. And he'd like Owen Roberts to speak for 5 minutes. So we had 5 minutes. I had a line, 5,000 people came to his funeral. It was high noon in Corcoran, California, where his farm was. All the farms up and down the valley had let their workmen off, and they all came to pay tribute to Boswell. I had this one line. I said this morning, one of the officials of the J.G. Boswell Company asked me, what was it like having J.G. Boswell on your board of directors? I said it was a mixture of Christmas Day and the Last Judgment. It just depends on which day you got him. Now, Betty and I woke up at the beginning of this year, knowing it's the 50th, and we said, what can we do to help the 50th? And we had a clear thought. We got to thank everybody. I still want to thank those 800,000 host families. One day, we're going to have a tremendous jamboree and invite all of them. Really. What kind of a group that could be for the world? 800,000 families. Now I've forgotten where I was, Betty. Where was I? What? Did you hear what she said? That's the trouble. Our hearing's gone and... Anyhow, wherever I was... What? I can't hear you.
Thanking people. Thanking me.
Thanking people. That's where we were. I really apologize, but I'm 90 and I'll give you warning. You get here much sooner than you planned on it. Get ready. So, Betty and I thought we've got to thank people. We thought probably I went to see Tom Cruikshank, who's sitting out there in the audience, the former head of Halliburton Oil, one of our chairmen, with his wife Ann. He said, I told him this story. I thought we should thank the people that gave us money, and they gave us some $70 million over 50 years. So Tom, who's got a great Southern accent, I used to have one when I married a Yankee girl. It's all gone, but Tom says to me in his drawl, he said, son, you're the only man that can do that. You got to go do it. So Betty and I started off in the automobile, and we traveled some 2,500 miles, seeing people in California and Texas, thanking them. I'll tell you a short story. We went first to... Okay, where's Ken Ashby?
You're good.
Get off the stage. The voice. So we go first to see an old friend named Byron Hilton, the Hilton Hotels, all that. We've been a friend of Byron for 50 years. He funded some of the first cast. He funded the Russians who came to the 25th. Okay. We went to see Byron. He's not very well. He said to Betty and me, go see my son. So we went out to thank the son who's running the Hilton Foundation. And Steve Hilton, who we've known and watched grow up, is now running the Hilton Foundation, which is $2.5 billion. Middle of the lunch, Steve said to me, Blanton, aren't you going to ask for money? I said, Steve, I know your rules here. I cannot ask for money unless you ask me to ask for money. And that's the rule. So he stands up at the table. He said, in the presence of Betty Belk, your wife, I ask you to ask us for money. Sat down. I said, that's wonderful. Do you have any number in mind? Do you want to hear the rest of the story? He said, I've been talking to my father, and we want to give you $1 million to start the 50th. I said, that's terrific. What about $1.5 million? Betty turned white. She couldn't believe I'd done that, and I didn't believe I'd done it, but I did it. Anyhow, I said, why do you want more? Why do you want another $500,000? I said, one of our board members has just pledged $500,000, and if you give me another $5, we could have $2 million, and we'll launch a $25 million endowment fund for the 50th. He said, that's good thinking. Okay. I'm going to end with one thing. I know, Ken, you're really suffering through this.
This is the moment.
I want this cast to come to Washington. You know, we talk about civil rights. In 1956, I wanted to do something about civil rights. And I'm a white Southerner. You knew I was white, but you weren't sure I was a Southerner. I am a Southerner. My cousins run the Belk stores all over the South. Go into stores and shop. Mention my name. They add 20% to your bill. So, this is a short story, Ken. I hope. So, I knew, how do you meet? I want to meet Martin Luther King. One of those crazy thoughts again. But I thought if I could meet King and let him know as a white Southerner, I felt the same as he did. How do you do it? I had a black friend who was a big man, militant leader in the NAACP, named Charlie Howard. He gave the keynote address when Henry Wallace ran on the socialist ticket. This is way before your time. Don't worry about it. Charlie was the key. We're in Atlanta, Georgia, visiting that great family, the Wolfords. Charlie calls Martin Luther King's office in Montgomery, Alabama. King's secretary talked to King. He agreed to see us. The Wolfords sent us a black Packard. We drove early in the morning. I'm driving, and Charlie Howard is sitting in the front seat next to me. He was 6'4", 195 pounds, a great, almost all-American player at the University of Iowa. Real man. This is not done in the South. A white driver and a black man sitting at the front seat with him. We didn't think about any of that. This is the middle of segregation. Everything, I grew up there. Everything. Restaurants were segregated, bathrooms were segregated, white and colored. Tragic period in life, but that's the way it was. So we go to see King in his office in Montgomery right after the bus boycott, where Rosa Parks refused to sit in the back of the bus. We waited 3 hours in King's office. And I said to Charlie, I think we should leave. He said, no, we're going to wait. Another 10 minutes, the secretary came out and said, Dr. King will see you. I was a white elephant in the room. Really? I'm sure what he was doing on the phone is figuring, why has a Belk come over here to see me? I know who Charlie Howard is, but why'd he come? So we have this talk with him at the desk, and Charlie and I told him we'd been speaking through universities together. Something happened. That often happens in a conversation. Some magical thing happened. He relaxed. And I was terribly impressed with King. There's an aura about him that is a little mystical, but it's there. He said, what are you men doing for lunch? Charlie said, we haven't had anything to eat since breakfast. We have no plans for lunch. He picks up the phone and he says, Coretta, I have 2 interesting men in my office here. I'm bringing them to lunch. Sit 2 more places. We leave in his car. 3 of us go to his home, had a white picket fence around it, big oak trees in the yard. The yard has been swept completely clean. 2 FBI agents behind 2 big trees. The 3 of us, I'm in the middle, Dr. King, Charlie, we walk from the car to the front door, and we are filmed. I want to go to the FBI and have a look at that one day. So we have this absolutely wonderful Southern lunch, which Coretta had cooked, and we became friends. We became close friends. King said to me, I've never said this before, he said, we're won the battle. We can sit anywhere on the buses, but we're more divided as a race ever before. What's the answer? We talked about character being as important as color. Go back to what color is God's skin? And if we could lift the character of America, we could have a colorblind country. How about that? Lift the character. That's it. Fast forward. This is getting to the end. Fast forward. Next year, King came to Washington for his first speech at the Lincoln Memorial. Thousands turned out. First march on Washington. I went to it. And King and I had stayed in touch during that period. He had become Martin and I'd become Blanton, which I was honored. And I went up at the end of his speech, which was a tremendous speech, and a crowd was around him. Ralph Abernathy, his lieutenant, Roy Wilkins, head of the NAACP, and all of them were around talking to him, and all the press was there, and I'm on the outside. King sees me over the crowd. I'm the only white guy there. Blanton, he says, what are you doing here? Come on in the circle. And I went in the circle. He said, what did you think of my speech? You're a Southerner. And I told him I thought it would resonate with everybody. Thought it was a universal speech. And I knew I had about 10 seconds left with him, and I blurted out, Martin, what are you doing for dinner? He turned to Ralph Abernathy, and he said, Ralph, what are we doing for dinner? Roy Wilkins, what did we do? He had no plans for dinner. I said, look, I have the use of a house on Massachusetts Avenue. Could you come to dinner? So he says to Ralph, get down the address. We'll go to dinner. This is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I go back to this house. Two great cooks, Rachel and Harriet. I'd known them for years. I had the use of this magnificent house in Massachusetts Avenue. I said, guess who's coming to dinner? This is getting close, Ken. Hold on. I said, guess who's coming to dinner? Dr. King. Oh, my God, they started laughing. They were laughing so hard they sat down in chairs. I said, please, Dr. King is coming to dinner. Look, Blanton, you've always been a jokester. We know you're pulling our leg. I said, please. They finally got the point that I was about to cry. And I said, please, he's coming in this house probably in an hour. Those two cooks fixed a meal you won't believe. I went and seated the table thinking 8 or 10 people would come. 7 o'clock, the doorbell rings and 18 people come in. Whoom! My seating went to the dogs, and Martin said to me, Blanton, sit at the end of the table with me. And Dr. King, his father, was there, and he said, Father, I want you to give the blessing. We've had a fantastic, miraculous day. The press has now got the point of what we've got to do in this country. And we sat there, and King and I had a long talk together. King was killed. I have wonderful letters from Coretta. It was a friendship. And she said what it meant to Martin. You started out 50 years ago to build peace in the world. Peace was the message of the youth of the 60s. I'll tell you what you've done already, and this will end it. You built a solid circle of friends around the world, 22,000 from 125 countries. Now, it's trite to say it, but peace is not just an idea, it's people of the world becoming friends. It's people of the world becoming friends. I became a friend to King. It meant a lot to me, and it seems that it meant a lot to King. That's a great thing. But you have built a circle of friends who won't kill each other ever. They won't. They won't do it. You know what? We've all had experiences for 50 years that very few people in the world have had. They say the world in the next 35 years will go from 7 billion to 9.5 billion people. They'll need water, they'll need food, they'll need new energy, and they're calling on the world to be the most creative period, a renaissance in thought. What they leave out is, how do we get along with people not like us? How do we get along with people not like us? That's what you know. You've experienced in the cast, you've experienced in the families, you've experienced together. That's a responsibility we have in the future to do something about this whole world. Thank you for bearing with me, and thank you for having me here. Power to you. to you. Somebody can help me down. There we go.
And now we'd like to welcome to the stage to perform the original version of Up With People, the authors and composers of so many great songs. They are the musical founders of Up With People. Please welcome Herb Allen, Steve Colwell, Ralph Colwell, and the other guy, Paul Colwell, the original version of Up With People.
Hey, you know what? And those of you from Cast, sing out 65, you can help me with this. The world's seen lots of trouble. Seems like one big trouble spot. But you know, it's not such a bad place to live, at least for some. It's the only place we got. And those of us who live here, well, we're all right, I guess, but yeah, we sure have gotten ourselves into one heck of a mess. You know, everybody thinks that the other people are not quite up to par. And things would be different if they were more like them, but the problem is they are. Yeah. But you know, I'm not one of those who say that people will never change. But in this world of plenty, it seems kind of strange that there's not enough of everything to go around. Some have too much, some have too little. And there's hunger where plenty abounds. You know, but there's no one group to blame. We're all in the same boat. Either together we'll sink or together we'll float. But I look at it this way. Inside of everybody, there's a certain spark. And it's still burning, though the world's getting mighty dark. But we got to keep, it's a spark that can make people great. And we got to get it burning hotter than any greed or selfishness or hate. And, you know, I see it this way, even though I don't have a PhD, that if we can recognize that spark in the heart of people and all humanity, that we might even start seeing people to start acting like real human beings. We might even start to get along. Well, guys, I better end my speechifying and philosophizing here.
You did good, Paul.
Thank you. And get on with our special song written especially for people, because you sure meet a lot of them nowadays, huh?
All right, there we go.
1, 2, 3. Well, it happened just this morning. I was walking down the street. A jogger and a blogger and a board of directors member I did meet. Yeah, they're up early. They're in every window and at every single door. I recognize people